Continuing on in section 8.2 here on number 6, again we're going to do our table of values. We pick x values, -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. Remember, we can pick any x values, but we want to have things that are going to work on our graph. So here we wouldn't pick anything other than like -7 through 7. But the bigger numbers we use, the oftentimes bigger our graph gets, and it won't necessarily fit for our y's. So usually we use -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. Those numbers are easy to use and usually have a better chance of fitting. So here, I'm going to take my x values and plug them into my equation. And I keep the rest of my equation exactly as it's written. So -x plus 3, -x plus 3, -x plus 3, -x plus 3, -x plus 3. Here, I have minus a negative, which is plus. So 2 plus 3 is 5. Minus a negative, guys, is like taking a -1 times a -1. Gives me a +1 plus 3 is 4. 0 is just 0 plus 3. -1 plus 3. And -2 plus 3. And now we take and graph our points. So x is -2 and y is 5. X is -1 gives me a y of 4. X of 0 gives me a y of 3. X of 1 gives me a y of 2. And x of 2 gives me a y of 1. We connect our dots. With a straight edge. Make sure all your points line up. If not, it means you probably did something wrong. You need to check. And then we'll put arrows to show that these continue. Let's try number 7. And again, feel free to pause and give any of these a try first if you'd like. We're going to use the table of values, so I'm going to pick x values here. Again, it doesn't matter what we use, but I'm going to use -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. I'm going to take those x values and plug them into my equation. So I start off with my x's and I build my equation around it. So 3 times x minus 4. 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 And there we go. -6 minus 4 is -10. -3 minus 4 is -7. 0 minus 4 is -4. 3 minus 4 is -1. 6 minus 4, 2. And again, I multiplied first and then subtracted. Now that I have my points, I'm going to graph them. -2, -10 doesn't fit here. It's going to be approximately here. I have -1, -7. Now that fits on my graph. 0, -4. 1, -1. And 2, 2. Here we'll draw on our line with our straight edge. And then make sure we put arrows. Here I got through that point. Arrows to show it continues. Same idea here with number 8. Again, we're going to pick x values. -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. I take those x values and plug them into my equation. So I plug them in for the x. So here I have half times x plus 1, 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 and half times x plus 1. Half of -2 is -1 plus 1 is 0. Half of -1 is -half plus 1, half. 0 plus 1 Half times 1 is half plus 1, gives me 1.5. And half times 2 is 1 plus 1 is 2. So here, at negative 2, I have 0. Negative 1, I have a half. 0, 1, 1, 1.5, 2, 2. I'm going to connect these with my straight edge. Make sure it goes through all your points, and an arrow to show that they continue. The graph of the equation y equals b is a horizontal line through the point 0, b. Here we just have one variable. Same thing with the graph of x equals a is a vertical line through a, 0. One variable. Anytime all we have is one variable, because our a and our b are going to be numbers, our graph is either straight left and right or straight up and down. Y lines are horizontal because it's all the points that have the same height. X line is a vertical line because it's all the points that have the same distance left and right from 0. So all of them that have the same x value is a vertical line. All of the points that have the same y value is a horizontal line. So y equals 3 means my intercept for my y-axis is at 3. And then I want all the points where y is 3. It doesn't matter what my x is, I just need my y to be 3. So at 6, 3. At negative 4, 3. At pi, 3. Okay, any x value, doesn't matter, we just need y to be 3. And from there, we're going to connect them with our straight edge. Arrows to show it continues. And there we go. X equals negative 2 means my x-intercept is going to be at negative 2. My x value is negative 2 there. My x value is also negative 2, 6. At negative 2, negative 3. At negative 2 pi. It doesn't matter here what our y value is, we just want our x value to be negative 2. So it's all the points where our x value is negative 2. And we will connect those with a straight edge. And then arrows to show it continues. So if we only have one variable, and the variable is an x, it's vertical, and a y is horizontal. We only ever have a slant on our lines if we have an x and a y in our equation. Equations as functions. In examples 3 and 4, the vertical line test shows that y equals 2x minus 1 and y equals 3 are functions, while x equals negative 2 is not a function. There, remember how we had multiple points and I connected them with a vertical line? That means it fails our vertical line test. In general, a linear equation is a function unless its graph is a vertical line. An equation that's solved for y is in function form. So in function form, it's y equals everything else. Y equals 2x minus 1, for example. And it might be helpful to write it in function form before we graph it. So if we look here, not function form is 3x plus y equals 7. We actually call that standard form, and we'll get to that later. But to put it in function form, we have to move the 3x. We want it just y equals. So to move from one side of our equation to the other, we subtract the 3x to both sides. Keep in mind, this negative 3x, I cannot put with my positive 7 because they don't have the same variable parts. So function form here is y equals negative 3x plus 7. In example 5 here, we're going to write it in function form and then graph it. So again, function form means we're going to solve for y. My first step, get rid of my x. Right now I have a positive x, so I get rid of it by subtracting. 2y equals, we list our x first, and the sign with the x goes with it. So since we subtracted x, it's a negative x plus 6. And it's actually a negative 1x here. You can put the 1 if you want to, but you don't have to. Now, to get our y all the way by itself, I have to get rid of the 2. And in order to do that, I'm going to divide. And I divide everything by the 2. Y equals negative 1/2 x plus 3. So here is our function form. Now to graph it, we're going to make our table of values. I plug those in for x and build my function. So it's negative 1/2 times x plus 3. 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 Negative times a negative gives me a positive, and 1/2 of 2 is 1. So here when I add 3, I get 4. I get positive 1/2 plus 3, 3.5. I get 0 plus 3, negative 1/2 plus 3, 2.5, and negative 1 plus 3, 2. Now I can graph. So at negative 2, 4, I have a point. Remember, these are ordered pairs. At negative 1, 3.5. At 0, 3. At 1, 2.5. And at 2, 2. We're going to connect these with a straight edge. And put on arrows to show that it continues. So when in doubt, guys, we're going to use the table of values to graph. Feel free to pause here and give these a try if you'd like. In example 9, we're going to graph y equals negative 1 and x equals 4. Because we have two different equal signs, guys, these are two different lines. So y equals negative 1, y lines are horizontal. It's all the points where a y is negative 1. So y is negative 1 here, and here, and here. So it's going to be the line through there. Again, it's all the y values that are negative 1. X equals 4. Here is all my x's that are 4. So my x is 4 here, and my x is 4 here, my x is 4 here. So we connect all those with a vertical line. And then make sure we put arrows on the end. Okay, two separate lines. X equals lines are vertical, y lines are horizontal. Function form here means we're solving for y. My first step then is to get rid of my x's, and to get rid of a positive 2x, I have to subtract. Again, we're going to bring the sign with that y. Always take the sign with our numbers. We put our x's first, negative 2x plus 3 because our 3 is positive. And then to get rid of our negative 3, we have to divide. Y equals positive 2/3 x minus 1. Here we set up our table of values. I'm going to use negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, and 2. So I use those x's, and I bring down the rest of my equation. 2/3 times x minus 1, 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 2/3 x minus 1. Here I filled in that table for us. You can just type these right in your calculator, guys. 2/3 times negative 2 minus 1. 2/3 times negative 1 minus 1. And that'll give you your ordered pairs. Once we fill out our table, remember these are ordered pairs. So I have negative 2, negative 2 and 1/3, and here we're just kind of guessing, guys. Negative 1, negative 2/3, 0, negative 1, 1, negative 1/3, and 2, positive 1/3. Connect them with our straight edge. And arrows to show our pattern continues. And that's all I have for section 8.2.